Hello everybody, today I have the pleasure to propose to you this key 75 entitled Invisible Words, Invisible Dimension, Hereafter. So this is the second video. Okay, the first chapter was to explain the invisible word, the hereafter, in the sense of the passage beyond. Okay, let's say to reconsider that everything is information. It's not because we cannot see that it doesn't exist. Okay, you cannot see these roots, but they are with they feed through the sap the entire tree. Okay, so here today we're gonna see concretely the actors of the invisible words of the hereafter. Okay, and the third video will be about reincarnation, and the fourth one, will be regarding transincarnation, transgenealogy, and so on. We will enlarge the consciousness with the notion of multiverse and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's try to start. You know, here I am currently in south of Turkey, and you know, history is changing regarding the time, okay, which is paradoxal, but actually, you know, officially, we say that, history, official history, states that the first civilization is Sumer, okay, Sumerians in Middle East, current Iraq, okay, Ur, okay, Ur, Euphrates, okay, and let's say Tigre and Euphrates, sorry, the two rivers, and the first, the dates would be something like 6,000 years. The first writings arrived 5,300 years ago, okay, but obviously the civilization doesn't arrive at the same time, it's normal, but 6,000, why 6,000? Actually, this is especially according to Judaism, Christianity, and also Islam, especially based on the Genesis, you know, Adam and Eve, okay? If it's taken directly and not as a metaphor, some creationists think it is this, the origin of humanity. Except that recently in 1961, has been discovered here in Turkey, in the south of Turkey, Göbekli Tepe. Why it's so important and is a revolution regarding our history of humanity is the fact that it is 14,000 years ago. Okay, so it's before. Secondly, and this is official now, the historians completely agree on the fact that there was this civilization. Okay, quite in advance. And why is so also a revolution beyond of that is because actually they establish their civilization, because officially we say, okay, hunters and picker evolve as nomads, then sedentarization, stabilization, then they develop agriculture, and then they develop the cult. But it's the opposite side. Göbekli Tepe showed then they had a nature spirituality close to paganism. Okay, it's here half of shamanism, shamanic dimension, and actually they did like some temples, like a little bit like in Stone Age, with the alignments of the stars and so on, the constellations, and actually solstice, equinox, and so on, and actually so. They developed that, but the fact they were nomads, they couldn't go, they need to go back to pray regularly. So they decided to establish a civilization with some roles to be able around the cults. So this is the cult which created the civilization, and not on the other way around. In addition of that, you know, all the word as a word heritage regarding shamanism. Shamanism, whatever you call it, you have shamanism in North America with Hopi, with many, let's say, indigenes, in South America, everywhere, in Africa, voodooism and so on, animism and so on, Northern Africa, in Europe, Druidism, okay, the Druids, okay, the Celts, and so on. By the way, the origin of the Celts, there was a community next to Ankara in Turkey as well. So then all Europe has been Celt. I mean, even in some places in Portugal and so on. Well, anyway. So just, it is in our roots, those who are American and not Native American, and if they are Irish, excuse me, but they are Celts, okay? So they have this in their blood, I mean, in their DNA, in their lineage, in their energetic relationship, okay, lineage and so on. So this is really important, and I'm not talking about Turkey, shamans in Kazakhstan, in Uzbekistan, in Siberia, and so on, in Southeast Asia, in Pacific, and so on. All the planets. And shamanism, concretely, what is it? It is just a natural spirituality, a connection that naturally humans beings had. Okay, so this was prevalent on the planets before the arrival of certain official religions, and some of them, okay, some let's say institution, okay, divine and conquer techniques, they use it to master people, master consciousness, to rewrite the Holy Scripture and so on, the essence and so on. That's why reincarnation disappear in Judaism, in Christianity and in Islam, but is still present in the esoteric part, in Kabbalah, in Gnosticism and in Sufism. Okay, so, and then actually if it's important to keep this in mind, because that's why there is nowadays a coming back of this, because it's kind of Mother Earth, the energies, they want we bring this back because it's a part of us, it's a part of our history, okay, human history. And then if you see actually, so Inquisition and so on, they used Christianity to master the consciousness and so on, and then it has been a trauma for almost 5 centuries, okay, from 1200 till almost 1850. Okay, I will mark this this date with Allan Kardec, because at this period, when he published his books, a lot of people, like Inquisition, they want to burn the book, it's forbidden, and so on and so forth. So, Inquisition, okay, but before that, there was kind of witchery, a lot of superstition, and so on. So I'm not saying that it was good, Inquisition, but Inquisition cleaned up all this also, but destroyed everything. So we lost this natural ability to be connected to forces, God, and so on. So Inquisition destroyed everything. They, even with the close-minded aspect, destroyed as well and traumatized some scientists, Galileo, Copernic, Kepler, and so on. So after that, you know, it's kind of a revenge. Sometimes when some people are oppressed, they become, okay, the oppressor, okay, the executor. After that, some people, some countries, and so on, okay? So then some scientists, okay, I'm not saying it's binary, and some scientists are spiritual and so on, and I talk about that complementarity in the key science and spirituality. But just to make the link, you know, by extremity, then we entered in a new kind of religion of scientism, on the fact that if we cannot see, it doesn't exist. If it's not you cannot demonstrate, it doesn't exist. Okay? So the real materialism, the real materiality, and so on and so forth. So I say 1850. Okay? It's a very important date because it's the beginning of industrial revolution, okay, then electricity, then consumption, consumerism, and our new society accelerated. I talk about that in a book free, which is for free in English, Coronapocalypse, Save Our Souls. Okay, I re-explain all this, the process of why this crisis, as existential crisis, is so important now. And because this is the accumulation of that. And now that's why there is some remembrance, resurgence of this notion of shamanic dimension. Okay, so for you to try to understand this. I had an experience in 2016 of shamanic retreats with a real shaman, and I'm gonna tell you, it was extraordinary. Okay, concretely, it was a small group. Normally, I never traveled like this. It was in Mongolia, so it was also in the steppes with a horse. It was just fantastic. So we had some initiation and also some rituals, ceremonies on night. So I remember she was a woman, 25 years old and so on. It was not a work. A work, she has a restaurant, a pizzeria, let's imagine. And she was Christian initially. And she didn't believe in that. And I remember the first night, so to be in trance, she doesn't take any substance. She just used drums. So 30 minutes later, 45 minutes maybe, she kind of explodes. And she was like very thin, you know, very tiny voice. And then she had a voice of, "Oh, what?" You see, like this, very strong male voice. And we were like, wow. And then, so she revealed us many things that we were the only one to know. And you know what? Her story was interesting because we spent 12 days with her. Actually, she was condemned to death. Okay, she had a cancer. She has an enormous scar, scar here. She explained her story. So she went to Beijing, she went to Singapore to be healed and so on, but nothing was possible anymore. Then she had the, let's say, revelation through one of her ancestor, a shaman from 5 centuries ago, okay, saying her, "I'm gonna heal you, but we won't, because we are suffering too much to lose this within our world heritage and our roots of Mongolia. I'm gonna teach you to be a shaman. So you will have to transmit that and to continue our traditions." So it was absolutely fantastic, and that's why a lot of people have this appeal nowadays, okay? And once again, it's not exotic. It is all countries have their part of it. So if I go a little bit further, personally, yeah, I feel I'm kind of channeling, even if it's not so accurate compared to specialists, but everybody can feel things with intuition, good connection to the hereafter, the ancestors and so on. But I'm gonna testify something. So I had an experience, but I'm not gonna tell you all my death experience, I mean the relationship. I lost my best friend, one of my best friend, in 95, when I was 15 years old, in a dramatic bus accident. Almost 30 people died, him and his cousin as well. It has been a disaster, okay? So, and I remember this night when it arrived, I was in east of France, in my ancestor's house, alone with my other best friend. And this night, the moments, the D-Day, and also at the time, it was 11 a.m., okay? During many minutes, the light switch on, and then switch off, and then switch on, and then switch off. Many times like this. We were completely surprised. And then when we had the information you passed away, we were completely shocked, because it was like F. Because it's happened quite often, this notion with on the electronic device. When there is, let's say, someone passed away, there is kind of fluid and also energy, okay, spread like this. And at this moment, to be frank with you, I had a lot of synchronicity. I was asking a sign, and then I was putting a switch on. It's happened 3 or 4 times. The radio, it was Michael Jackson, you know, "You are not alone," like if he were talking to me, you know, like synchronicity. Okay, it was fashion at this period of time, so maybe it was coincidence, maybe. And then I ask, during 1 year, very hardly I pray for having more than a sign, to have a confirmation. You believe or not, 1 year, exactly 1 year, day for day, and 1 a.m., in the night, 1:11, okay? I was with this same best friend, and I was sitting down. We were on holidays. It was in July, of course. It was hot outside, and then we saw like a shape, a human shape, but completely radiating like lights, walking to us like this, 10 meters only, arriving like this, looking at us like this, and then going back. So no sense to do that and to do that. And light, like a kind of ghosts, but with light. And my friend, I remember, I didn't say anything, of course, and he didn't remember it was this D-date and so on, because he knew it, but it was not his best friend. But anyway, so he was like in a movie. He said to me, "What is that?" Like completely scared. And I put my hand on his hand, and I felt such a love, such a confidence. And I say, "Don't worry, I'm gonna tell you." And then I explained when he returned back and so on. I took a few minutes, of course, because it was like my proof. Maybe it was hallucination, maybe. But my friend was there to testify. He was not a believer. And even now, I'm 42 years old, so it was a long time ago, we still talk about that, thinking, I mean, he say, I have no idea about what was that. It was so strange. I have another testimony like this. I lost my grandfather in a dramatic situation in 2007. He hung, let's say, so he suicides. And why? Because my grandmother passed away 2 years before, and let's say he find a new woman. But he always said to me, the more I love this new person, the more I love grandma. And in the village, in some family, some people are a little bit close-minded. So he didn't support this and so on. So I remember he was really depressed because of that, only because of that, the word of mouth and the reputation, all this bullshit. He called me 2 times to say, "I'm gonna suicide. I cannot anymore." And I said, "Oh, come on. You are good. You feel well with her. You're in love. Drink a bit of wine. You like this. Have a good fun with her." He said to me that he was doing still the mysterious thing, sex 3 times a week. Imagine 78 years. He was so cute, let's say, for grandpa. And then he didn't do this. But the 3rd time he called me, actually. Synchronicity message. It's grenade, pomegranate, which is supposed to be the fruit of the knowledge and not the apple in the Middle East for Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Anyway, maybe a sign. I don't know. Anyway, so, and he called me and I didn't pick up the phone. Why? Because I was discussing with an incredible guy, a guy who had AIDS. One of the first for a scandal in France. It was a contamination through an exchange of blood and so on and so forth. And so we were talking. It was very interesting. It was about death, and he was saying that he could die almost every day. And he said to me he was an Arabic guy. I remember that I never find him back. Maybe it was an illusion. I don't know. Probably not. But or Melchizedek, like in Alchemist, when he talks to the old Arabic guy. He say, "I'm Melchizedek. I'm like the Holy Spirit, and I can embody in everything and through everything, even through a stone and so on, or to embody through someone, like the gardener in the Bible, embodying Christ." Okay, so, and he said to me a very beautiful sentence. He said, it's a Tibetan quotes, saying, "If you don't manage time manage you, or if you don't master time master you. Carpe diem, enjoy the day." And I was enjoying and doing what he was saying. The fact not to pick up the phone. Do I regret? I don't. He should be like this, he decided like this, and so on. But what's happened when I had a lot of synchronicity, and I remember we had a great discussion with my father the day before the funerals, and he said to me, do you think you could write a little speech to him? I say, if I find the inspiration and the courage, if I'm brave enough, I will try. No inspiration on night and so on. And then I fall down. I felt asleep. And 6 o'clock, okay, I was kind of, you know, you dream and then there is an in-between. So I was not awake, I was in between once again, probably in intermediaries waves of your brain. And I was perceiving, like my closed eyes, the room, and I saw him like this. And then sitting on my bed and taking his hand on mine, and like feeling, I don't know how long it lasts, to be honest, a few seconds, few minutes, I have no clue, but a love of love, but as a transmission. And then suddenly I wake up, and immediately I took the pen which was on my keyboard, and I wrote, but like automatic, and no change. It was just perfect. I was a scribe for him, and it was, imagine, the atmosphere was so bad, so heavy. And he always said, because he was really optimist guy, I want for my funerals everybody has fun and drink good wine, you know. So nobody drink wine in the church, of course. And then I start the speech, and it was so metaphor about unconditional love and so on, to not to punish anybody, but to clean up everybody. And it was like to clarify. He wanted to clarify it, and everybody was, wow, they came and so on, and there was like a light into the church. It was like miraculous. Everybody found that. It was like, and everybody talked to me at the end. It was marvelous and so on. Even his best friend, he came to me saying, I'm deaf. Everybody says, incredible. What did you say? And I gave him this message that I never find it back. I wanted to find it back a few years later, and I never find it anymore. But in a way, it's no sense. We don't care about the message. It was just the essence given at this moment. And I was feeling the presence of him. And then, you know, the tradition in France, east of France, in the farmers, the peasants, they go to this is a place to clean up. I mean, in the past, now they clean in the washing machine, and like symbolically, you always go there to eat a bit, eventually to drink a glass, alcohol or not, wine. And at the moment, so it was very heavy, but the fact I transmuted through his text, the energy of people, it was like, you know, like fluid and so on. And in this place of taking a glass and so on, after a moment, they were talking about his jokes. Some people, I remember my other grandma, for my mother, she was laughing, everybody's laughing and so on. And he prepared, there was good wine, and he was he called one of his wine the Milot, is our Milo, our name, family name, Night Milot. Okay, night like night, not like good night. Anyway, and at the moment I have a flash, and I feel him, and I had like a detach of the scenario, like, you know, in a movie, and we are here. This is what I expected. We did it. And it was so marvelous. And then a lot of connection like this that I could spend hours and hours, but it's not necessarily the topic here. I mean, it is the topic, but let's say I don't want to go too far neither. So, actually, you know, to make it a little bit short, because I want to re-clarify this notion that I will re-talk. This is really important, to be in peace with death, and also to realize the fact that the tree of life is composed as mother soul. The mother soul, all this forest is it's a garden, but let's consider this is a family, and or a lineage and or a sum of your reincarnation. They are coexisting at the same time. They are fed by the same sap, and all is interconnected through the roots. They teach each other and so on. And actually the space-time are superposed. Okay? And you know, this is exactly what Paulo Coelho depicts in the great book Aleph. Okay, he explaining that it's taking place nowadays, and also in parallel, it's taking place during the Inquisition, and there is consequences in between these two superposition. I did exactly the same. I mean, in a book, Baraka, in French only. I have to translate it in English, but it's 28 hours. It's quite big. So there are 33 chapters. So, and I'm always starting with some sentences from the Bible, and I recontext. I put in a context. Okay, who told me? I don't know. Feeling, intuition. You think as you want. And then there is the scene contextualized in the daily life of a refugee camp in Syria from 2016-2019. And actually, they do the same archetypes and egregores, and by clarifying certain things, actually. And, you know, in this book, Aleph, Paulo Coelho re-explained what I've been taught in India. The simple fact that the karma is not to inherit, for example, burdens that you had done in the past. Is this presently, by acting well, you can clean up, okay, your past, and then to embrace and to, as a springboard, to reach a luminous futures, and futures, choosing which one you want to access, okay? But all of them, all these scenarios coexist now here only. You understand? So it is really interesting because it's completely changing our perception and the filter of our consciousness regarding this notion of mother soul. Is like you soul if had 10 different lives, okay, 10 different entities, 10 different characters. You still are them, but you are always connected to the soul, embracing everything, a little bit like a mother has 10 children, sorry. Okay, it's not extrapolation, it's not extension of herself, of course not, but there is an affective link, okay, so, but still vibrating, okay, so that's why sometimes we need some adjustments, okay, and for instance, you know, you have dependence, affective stuff. I'll give you an example. My grandfather, I didn't know him. It's from my mother. Also suicide in the same consequence. 6 people of my family suicide. So imagine the proportion I had. Okay, that's why I wanted to commit suicide when I was 18 years old for different reasons. But anyway, and by the way, at this period of time, I had an experience of to be possessed. Okay, and I did right to clean up that. Okay, and he was a minor alcoholic. Okay, and at this period of time, I was alcoholic. Okay, so there is a link. Of course, I was not well balanced. I was traumatized by the grief of my friend and so on for many reasons as well. But anyway, just to come back to this notion of my grandfather, this one, okay, suicide. But I just discovered that when I went to the doctor, because my mother always say it was a cancer and it was a taboo, could not talk about that. And you know the story of this poor man. Actually, he was living well. He had a good business, let's say, work, job, occupation, and he lost everything due to the war. He has been sent to camps. Okay, so camps in Germany, and then when he came back, he found his wife cheating at him with a German guy. So imagine the humiliation for this poor guy, this poor man. He became completely crazy, and worse, because a woman cheating, he come back from a trauma, I mean, imagine torture and so on, bad condition, fear, coldness, and so on and so forth. And in addition of that, she denounced him saying how he is there for him to go back to the camp. Imagine the situation. So it's traumatizing, the loneliness that you can feel at this moment. And then he has been obliged to refuge in a small city in the east of France, where he found my grandmother, but he couldn't find business work. He became just, a cleaner of, what we do with dishes, and you put into let's say a truck and so on. So it was, and this is at this period of time, for someone who was working for with good position and so on. Imagine the trauma for everything. He started to be alcoholic, to be violent and so on, and not trusting his wife, not trusting anybody, and so on. And concretely, he suicides. So I took this burden as lineage, because why? He was completely traumatized by life. Then he suicided. His life was not recognized. It was not transmitted to all generation. He was ignored. Even it was like a fear or even a shame to suicide. And in addition of that, so nobody transmute, and he couldn't do it. So when I came here, I've been obliged. It was my contract with the soul. Okay, our common soul and our family soul, to clean up that. So I took that, and I had the feeling of not to be respected, and so on and so forth, all this kind of thing, this burden, okay, humiliation and so on. And then, you know what I did? This is what we call a soul recovering. It's just a simple thing. It's just like to say, okay, I understand your experience. Thank you for, the knowledge, the experience. Thank you for your sacrifice, and so on. But it doesn't belong to me anymore. So I free up myself as much as I free you up. And this is actually a shamanic ritual. That's, everybody can do it. It's to clean up your lineage, because we have so many burdens that we ignore from our previous life, from our, let's say, lineage and so on. In our DNA, in our world heritage and so on. We will have to also to clean up that for our countries in general, the relationship. I talk about that in a book, from Germany, France, Japan, China, and so on. Some stuff that we are taking back as a history, and because it's in our cells memory and so on. So anyway, just to continue, and to shorten a little bit, actually some tips, very important to know the functioning of the actors of invisible world. Secondly, the memory of the ancestors, not to ignore them, and eventually to clean up. Okay, this is the positive, negative. I don't say, my grandfather was a hero because he was violent, not at all. So it was dark side from him, but we can understand due to the trauma. Understand, tolerate. But once again, the most important is not to forget, but to forgive. And this is the purification key. Referring to the key 33, there is a guide meditation helping you to do that. Okay, for you, for you and for this person. Even currently, you can do it. If someone did something bad to you, this is Yom Kippur in Hebrew, means Yom, day of purification. What does this mean? He did something bad to me. Okay, he asked me, he does apologize. I accept to forgive him. He's purified, and I'm purified, and then we are not linked and blocked, in this this kind of energetic presence. We are invited to do that, and to do so for everything, for all our human relationship, currently and from the past. This is very important to identify where are the problems, to partially solve them, then to transmute them, okay, to discharge the affective and energetic part. Very important also, the soul reading. The soul reading concretely is someone who is connecting to his soul, talking to your soul as well, to indicate, for example, what problems you have and how to solve them, for instance. Another one is recovering of the soul. This is what I told you. It can be also some energy vampires to take this back, I mean, to break this link of energetic, affective, and so on dependence, okay, to free you up. Also cleansing places of location. You ask to the guardians, okay, or the force of nature, I'm peaceful, just don't want to interrupt, or not to, I mean, to be respectful and also to be protected. Another thing as well is very important, but it can be with Soj and so on, you know, it can be with many ritual or incense and so on. Or also the ritual of protection, very important. Can be, for example, the visualization. There is a meditation, I will put the link, the visualization of the light bubble, okay, the light of the bubble of light, sorry, to preserve you, to protect you, for instance. Some mantra, some prayers, some surat, some dirk, whatever your origin and so on. It can be your own magic words as well to protect you, you know. Some stones, they have some certain energy. In Turkey and a lot of Muslim country, they have this, okay. And because I told you this is the origin of this country, okay, is Islamic land now, but before it was the origin of Christianity. The minister was in Palestine, but the transmission, the church has been built here in Turkey. Here we have many communities, they refugee here, and there is in the caves and so on, there are a lot of channels, very interesting. Here in Fethi, in southwest where we are, also in Cappadocia, not so far from here, and so on and so far. So, and then it's before that, it was a shamanic land. So there is still this energy coming back, but they have everywhere in all house you have this, even for the little kids. My baby, my grandmother, put a little stuff like this, so cute, and on the clothes of all babies, they have that, okay, to avoid bad eyes. Okay, so it's kind of grey, as we call that. And the last one I wanted to say, but there is a lot of rituals, okay, whatever the religion, spirituality or mysticism, because do you have an equivalent from essence? Essence from the one part of Judaism, okay, those who taught Baptist, John the Baptist, and also Jesus, okay, it was belonging or not, we don't know, and whatever, but apparently John the Baptist was belonging to this movement, okay, one of the different one from Judaism. But anyway, so it was part, they had a ritual of protection like this, from Christian as well, the first Christian as well, which is the continuum, and in Islam as well, you know, when you do ablution. But there is equivalent in Hinduism, in Buddhism, and so on. I've been taught about them. When you do ablution, you know what is it? Those who are Muslim or those who are not necessarily, but just for information. But this is a process that you can do whatever your belonging and your beliefs. Concretely, you start with cleaning up your hands to clean up the connection, the bad connection you had with people by shaking hands or energetically speaking, and or with bad action you had, okay, like violence or okay. Then, so it's first the hands, then what you say. I mean, the bad words you had, the bad talks about things, about the situation, about people in general. Then the nose, okay? So it allows you to clean up the bad atmosphere that you breathe in a certain extent. Then it's your face to clean up the bad things you saw, for example, from the news, from something on the streets, some people fighting on an accident or anything. Then here it's just for your mind, so for the bad ideas, the bad mood you had, and so on. Then here, for what you hear, which was not beautiful, okay? As I love to say, this is Tibetan and Sufi proverb saying, if what you have to say is not more beautiful than silence, don't do it. I mean, well, don't do it. I don't remember the word in English. Anyway, so, and last, I mean, not last, there is this also for the action you undertook, okay? And also you fit for the, you stance, let's say, the thing you handle, okay, in general. So you see, all this does make sense. And this is important to do this kind of ritual. I mean, not necessarily this one, if you're not belonging to this community, but in general to clean up, because yeah, we receive a lot of energy, some from the spirits, from outside, the bad genes, good genes, okay, genes, it's Genie, Genie in the bottle, Aladdin, okay, the 1001 Nights, Persian culture, poems and so on, but it's full of information. There is different layers of perception and readings and subtle messages. Well, I invite you to think about that. I hope it will help you to enlarge your consciousness, to open up the doors of love in general. As you know, all the roads lead to Rome and to home and to the dome. Thank you for your attention and see you very soon.